For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Sashnee Moodley. Researcher and analyst Professor Raymond Suttner joins me for Suttner's View, a weekly commentary on South Africa's political scene. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you.
Now, Cyril Ramaphosa and the ANC top six have met with traditional leaders after their election. Why is it so important for them as the ANC to meet with traditional leaders?
The whole history of the ANC is one where there has been, at times, a very strong relationship with traditional leaders. When the ANC was formed, they had modelled on the House of Lords in Britain. They had a House of Chiefs, and they had some of the kings there. The King of Swaziland was one of the kings that was in this House of Chiefs, or House of Kings and Chiefs. There was a belief running right down to the 1950s that when you recruited a traditional leader to the ANC, that he, because it's mainly he, only recently women, or in a few places before that, he would bring the whole chiefdom with him. So it was considered strategic to win over the chiefs. And the chiefs remained allied with the ANC till about the 1920s, maybe the 1930s. But they started to see that they needed money and that they were not getting support through the support of the ANC. And many of them, from even that period, started to sway closer to what was then the Native Administration Department. So the history with the chiefs in relation, traditional leaders in relation to the ANC, has been ambiguous. And it's also become controversial during the apartheid period and separate development period, where traditional leaders were seen as a key part of the policy of so-called separate development and Bantustans, and also the Bantu Authorities Act, where chiefs would be used as undemocratic form of local government on behalf of the apartheid regime. And a lot of chiefs were deposed then, like Chief Luthuli was deposed then. Chief Luthuli, incidentally, was a hereditary chief. And the fact that chiefs were deposed and others were put there in their place raises the important and thorny issue in relation to supporting, having a close relationship with the chiefs. Because many of the chiefs who took the place of those who were deposed were not in line. Their lineage was not the royal line. So that many of the chiefs who are today chiefs are not really so-called traditional chiefs, in the sense that there was a break in the line where some people opposed the apartheid regime, others didn't oppose it. And during the 80s, there were a lot of battles between UDF and UDF structures and these chiefs. And when the unbanning came, people like Mandela, Zulu, who had close relationship with chiefs and didn't believe in alienating them, also wanting to create as broad a base behind the ANC as possible, advocated close relationship with traditional leaders, even with Bantustan leaders. And this created a degree of dissatisfaction, in the sense that some people thought they were not aware of what some of these people had done during the period of apartheid. So coming to today, what my position is, and I also have to be sensitive because I'm a white person, my position is we have to respect culture and traditions, but not in an uncritical and unexamined way. In other words, if I say I respect the cultures of the Abatembu people, say, or something like that. I owe it to someone who has that identity to respect it. But if they practice things that are violent towards women, people who are in leadership have to engage over those beliefs and the practices of traditional leaders in these places in order to bring them in line with the constitution that we have. So we can't unambiguously embrace traditional leaders, but at the same time there are people who believe in allegiance towards them. When I was a young man, I wrote an article on customary law and I advocated abolition of the Chief's Court. And this famous Professor Jack Simons, who's expert on customary law, said I was wrong. And his attitude, which I now agree with, is that even if this was under apartheid, if people wanted to go to the Chief's Court rather than the Magistrate's Court, they should be allowed that right. That doesn't mean that one lets the administration of justice go unexamined. Another thing is the words that are being used in relation to traditional leaders, like Cyril Ramaphosa says, he's come to pay homage to traditional leaders. Now, homage is a word which elevates traditional leaders in a feudal type of way. And I think we've got to be very, very careful. On the one hand, not condemn the institutions because they have a semi-feudal type of origin, but on the other hand, not to reinforce claims that are made in a republic, a democratic republic that we are now. We must be very careful not to undermine democratic claims to local government and have these displaced by unelected chiefs. There's a whole lot of other things relate to land and things like this, which I think are problematic, but I'll see what else you ask me.
Now, Jacob Zuma met with King Goodwill Zwelithini yesterday. Should we be reading anything into this meeting, and how much influence do traditional leaders have with decisions like this at a time where the ANC is wanting to remove Zuma?
You see, King Goodwill is very controversial. We don't know to what extent he's actually revered by people, because a lot of people depend on him to get access to land and a lot of other things. Now, in the picture that I saw of him, the two of them together, they seem to be very happy with one another. And I think what Zuma is wanting to do is to signal that if you get rid of me, I've got the backing of the Zulu king. Now, one of the things that King Goodwill Zwelithini has done in the past is he has incited people against foreigners. Nothing happened to him. They'd left him alone. They didn't really take action against him. They made it as if he was misinterpreted. But when you listen to the recording, it is an incitement to attack people of foreign Africans in the area. So that it's also the picture of Zuma going there. I don't think King Goodwill Zwelithini can influence the NEC and things like that, but he can create problems for any government and for the ANC. Because 20 years ago, the ANC was not able to campaign in a large part of what is now KZN. So that's one thing. But secondly, he is able to incite violence, not just in KZN, but also in hostels up here, where a lot of his subjects are. And so I think, I don't know what they were doing, but the remarks he's been making lately in relation to the recommendation that the Ngonyama Trust gets, which relates to allocation of land, be dissolved, have been warlike. And I think they've been trying to get people worked up to take action. So That I would take it as a threat.
A threat of civil war, maybe?
No, I don't know. I think Zuma is saying, look, I'm seeing the king, and for some people the king has the potential to cause trouble. I don't know about if it would go as far as civil war. I don't know.
Okay. Now, traditional leaders have reminded the ANC that they get their votes from communities that are still under traditional leaderships. Is this not a threat and a very hostile relationship?
Well, you see, it would be very interesting to know to what extent the chiefs, traditional leaders, are in line with the thinking of the people who fall within the territorial boundary that they are. And it's part of the mythology that chiefs can speak on behalf of voters. Because voters in a democratic republic do not vote through their chiefs. They vote as individuals in the ballot box. So that this is something that has got to be resolved, the coexistence of two authorities at a local level. A traditional authority which has no civil powers in relation to how people vote, how they marry, all of those things. They can choose to get married by customary law, although that doesn't necessarily come to the chief or the king, can be done at a local level. So that I don't think that they may be making this threat, but it's not clear to me how many of these chiefs can carry their members and in what direction they want to carry them. I mean, the ANC in any case is in trouble in terms of its support base. And I think that's one of the reasons why Ramaphosa and others have been going to see the chiefs, is to get them to back the ANC and not block the ANC from campaigning in these areas in future elections. So what powers the chiefs have, I don't know.
Thanks for speaking with us, Professor.
Thank you.
That was Professor Raymond Suttner speaking to Creamer Media's Polity about the ANC and traditional leadership.